to get a couple of those, weren't you?
Make
For the
6:30.
kids. That's fine with me.
6 o'clock, as far as that goes.
Call the meeting to order, please. We have with us tonight Pastor Ross Habersmall from New Hope Alliance Church, who will deliver an invocation.
Please stand. Let us pray. To you, O God, who is the creator of all things, who knows fully the past, the present, and the future, we ask for wisdom for these who lead in this room. We ask also that you would see to the affairs of the people of this county and this region, that our lives might be pleasing and kind to one another. And so it is, we stand in awe of your goodness. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
You remain standing. Vice Chairman Ewing will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we adopt the agenda, we have the privilege tonight of having a representative from Troop 2, Assistant Scout Leader Scott McCarty, who has a special guest to introduce.
My son Josh.
He'd come go on ahead and come up. We're going to want him to talk to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is my son Joshua McCartney. He's currently working on a couple merit badges, and this fulfills the requirements for that. Thank you for having us tonight.
Pull it down there, Scott, and say hello.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here tonight.
How long have you been a scout?
Thank you for letting me be here.
He joined the troop in February, and last night he was awarded his first class rank, so he's moving right along.
That's great.
Congratulations. Adoption of the agenda, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One change, we need to delete from the Commissioner of Revenue's request for refund SunTrust equipment. That request needs to be revised.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
All right, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
A motion by Supervisor Collins, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Ewing. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The agenda is adopted. Consent agenda, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd offer the following tabs for the board's consideration. Tab E, which is the Technology Committee report. Tab F, Human Resources Committee report. And Tab Q, road resolutions for Wakeland Manor Phase 9, Wakeland Manor, Warrior Drive.
All right, is there any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Supervisor DeHaven, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Lofton. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Tabs E, F, and Q are approved on the consent agenda. Citizen comments, did anyone sign up?
Yes, sir. One citizen, Mr. Chairman, William McDonald from Plainfield Heights, to speak to the Dunebeg LLC Master Development Plan.
If you come forward, sir, repeat your name and magisterial district, limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Bill McDonald, 122 Plainfield Drive. I'm here not only for myself, but on behalf of the neighbors of Plainfield Drive. I have a few concerns regarding this Dunebeg project. Number one, the proposed homes are to be rentals. That's the big one there. And in my memory, low-income rentals breeds all kinds of problems, such as rapid deterioration of property, vandalism, and crime. This is just to name a few. It appears that the rentals are to be for 4 people each. However, after 10 or 15 relatives move in, it could become a little crowded. With the onslaught of multitudes of kids, where are the adequate playgrounds for this project? It's imperative that the current 8-foot privacy fence that separates Plainfield from this project remain and be maintained. Either that or a new fence be erected. The prevailing one is in need of repair, as such as applied sealer, and some of the boards need being replaced. Last but not least is the stormwater runoff. I understand it's some new type of runoff environmental thing that they don't need a holding pond anymore. It's supposed to soak down through the ground. I don't understand any of it. It appears like this project's going to be a guinea pig, see if it works. The only thing of it is it adversely might affect us. This is important because in the past, some of the backyards bordering this acreage, my development, were completely inundated during periods of heavy and sustained rain. They corrected that by bringing dump loads of dirt in and building it up. And if this works, if it doesn't work, I'd like to know what their alternative is. What kind of a backup do they have when we have our own septic system. We don't have we have city water, but not septic. And that'll probably be destroyed in case of a heavy rain. And we are an older, modest housing development with about 10 retired senior citizens with a total of 23 homes. It's a quiet neighborhood with no crime. I've been living here 48 years, and we would like to keep it that way. About 12 years ago, we won a court case with the Molden Corporation when they attempted to build low-income apartments on a lot fronting Valley Avenue and the entrance to our subdivision. If it had been approved, it would have meant hundreds of children flooding our streets. Thank you. That's it.
Anyone else, Mr. Riley?
No, sir.
Any Board of Supervisors comments? If not, we'll move on to the minutes of the regular meeting, July 25th, 2012, and you have a change on the table before you. Other than that, they are as presented with that change.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval as amended.
We have a motion by Supervisor DeHaven to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Spicer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The minutes are approved with the amendment. Next, the regular meeting, August 8th, 2012.
Mr. Chairman, move for approval.
We have a motion by Supervisor Ewing to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Fisher. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The minutes of the regular meeting, August 8th, 2012, are approved. Next, we have a presentation to make for the Employee of the Month. We're going to go down front, and if we could ask Jean D. Boyce to join us. The Employee of the Month Award Program recognizes the county's employees as an important and valuable resource. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors, it is my pleasure to present Jean D. Boyce for consideration as Employee of the Month for August 2012. Jean serves as Correctional System Officer with the NRADC, responsible for training, maintenance, and the operational oversight of the NRADC's most critical IT systems. During the months of April and May, Officer Boyce, along with the county's IT staff, personally planned and executed the jail's transition from Verizon to Comcast phone service. Officer Boyce is being awarded Employee of the Month for his persistence and uncompromising commitment to this project. And while completing this task, he demonstrated himself to be amongst the most dedicated and tireless members of the jail staff. I now entertain a motion to approve Jean D. Boyce as Employee of the Month for August 2012.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Supervisor DeHaven. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Lofton. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Jean D. Boyce is hereby recognized as Frederick County's Employee of the Month for August 2012. The Board of Supervisors extends its gratitude to Jean for his outstanding performance and dedicated service and wishes him continued success in future endeavors. Thank you, sir. Next, we'll move on to committee appointments. First on the list, Community Policy and Management Team. We have a person moving out of state, no applications received, no progress made.
Correct.
All right, next, Extension Leadership Council, Redbud, are we ready?
No, sir, I need a little more time.
Next, the Extension Leadership Council from Member at Large. We also, this is another resignation. We have no recommendations. I need to look for somebody.
If you want us to help you, we will.
I would appreciate that. The Local Emergency Planning Committee, LAPC, we have a request to replace Walt Cunningham with Dan Cunningham. Who made the request, Mr. Riley?
Came through the Fire and Rescue Association.
All right. What's your pleasure?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Supervisor Fisher to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Collins. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Mr. Dan Cunningham is appointed to the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Parks and Recreation, Shawnee.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend reappointment of Patrick Anderson to the Parks and Rec Committee, or Commission.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Collins. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Patrick Anderson is reappointed to the Parks and Recreation Committee from Shawnee. Next, the Sanitary, or Shawnee Land Sanitary District Advisory Committee. We have a resignation. Do we have a replacement?
No, sir. Actually, we have 2 resignations. I am working on that now, taking some resumes, and I should have something next month.
All right. We only have one resignation listed.
That's true. The other one just came recently, so it probably isn't on the list yet.
All right, next is the Shenandoah Area Agency on Aging. Our representative there, or one of them, has agreed to continue serving. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion we reappoint Ms. Stromeyer.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
I have a second by Supervisor Spicer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Teresa L. Stottlemyre Stroheimer, is reappointed to the Shenandoah Area Agency on Aging. Next is the Industrial Development Authority, Back Creek.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I have not contacted Mr. Wall.
All right, Shawnee.
Mr. Chairman, I've talked with Mr. Dick, and Richard Dick is willing to be reappointed, and I would so move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Collins. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Richard G. Dick is reappointed to the Industrial Development Authority from Shawnee.
Mr. Chairman, if I may I back up? I have an indication that Mr. Wall would be amenable to being appointed again, so if I may,
Yes, sir.
I would like to move that Mr. Dan Wall be reappointed to the Industrial Development Authority from Back Creek District.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Spicer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Dan Wall is reappointed to the Industrial Development Authority from Back Creek. Next, Hanley Regional Library Board, Stonewall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we reappoint Ms. Tracy L. Drumheller.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Ewing. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Tracy L. Drumheller is reappointed to the Hanley Regional Library Board from Stonewall. Next is the Board of Equalization, Gainsborough.
Mr. Chairman, I need a little more time.
All right. Board of Zoning Appeals, Opequon.
Mr. Chairman, I have someone before December meeting.
Both those last appointments are recommendations to the Circuit Court. Next is Chapter 10 Board, County Representative Derek C. Ashton. He is able to be reappointed. I did not contact him. Did anyone, Mr. Riley?
He wants to serve.
All right, the board, he wants to serve, or are you willing to appoint him?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to appoint Mr. Aston.
All right, we have a motion. There you go. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Fisher. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Derek C. Ashton is reappointed to the Chapter 10 Board, and Ryan A. Klaus. Willing to serve?
Yes, sir.
I've been moved to reappoint Ryan Klaus to the Chapter 10 Board, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Lofton. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor DeHaven. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ryan A. Klaus is reappointed to Chapter 10 Board. And last but not least, we have Juvenile Detention Center. Supervisor Charles DeHaven is the current representative.
Mr. Chairman, I move to reappoint Supervisor Charles DeHaven to the Juvenile Detention Center Commission.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Ewing. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Congratulations, Supervisor DeHaven.
Thanks, sir.
Next on the agenda are the requests from the Commissioner of Revenue for refunds. Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first request from the Commissioner is to request, dated August 1st, 2012, is to authorize the Treasurer to refund BMW Financial Services, N.A., LLC, the amount of $3,048.33 for normal proration of vehicles for personal property taxes for 2011 and 2012. Proof of disposal or move-out has been provided, and the county attorney has noted his consent, and it's requested that the Board of Supervisors approve the refund.
Questions? Hearing none, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman. Approval, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion to approve by Supervisor DeHaven. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Spicer. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
I believe I usually do a voice vote on these. Excuse me. Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven. Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion passes. Next, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Commissioner requests dated August 21st, 2012, to authorize the Treasurer to refund GE Capital Auto Lease the amount of $2,869.22 for proration of vehicles in the normal course of business for 2012. County Attorney has reviewed same, noted his consent, and it's requested that the Board of Supervisors approve the request.
Questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, approve GE Capital Auto Lease request.
Motion by Supervisor Ewing. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Lofton. Any discussion? Hearing none. Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven. Supervisor Ewing. Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion passes. Next, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Commissioner's request dated August 1st, 2012, to authorize the Treasurer to refund Solution Services Corporation the amount of $5,313.65. This refund was requested by the accountant for the company by amendment of the company's 2009 income tax return. The amendment corrected the reporting of income as gross receipts that was in actuality pass-through funds only and not revenue for Solution Services Corp. Specifically, the company serves as an accounts receivable agent for a number of tax-exempt entities that are themselves not subject to business license taxation by the county. Therefore, the gross receipts reported to Frederick County in 2009 by Solution Services Corporation were overstated, and the refund is in the nature of an overpayment due to incorrect reporting by the company. County Attorney has reviewed same, notified his consent, and has respectfully requested that a board approve same.
Questions? Mr. Williams, perhaps you or the Commissioner might tell me, is there any limit on how far back somebody can go?
It's generally 3 years.
3 years? Other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Spicer, a second by Supervisor Ewing. Any discussion? Hearing none. Supervisor Spicer. Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye and the motion passes. Next, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a request of the Commissioner dated August 21st, 2012, to authorize the treasurer to refund Toyota Motor Credit Corporation the amount of $5,842.04 for the proration of vehicles in the normal course of business for 2011-2012. Pursuant to the provisions of 58.1 Code of Virginia, the county attorney hereby notes his consent, and it's respectfully requested that the board approve same.
Questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Supervisor Ewing, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Collins. Any discussion? Hearing none. Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Spicer. Chairman votes aye and the motion passes. Next, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner's request dated August 21st, 2012, to authorize the treasurer to refund Wheels LT the amount of $3,909.25 for proration of vehicles in the normal course of business for 2011-2012. The county attorney notes his consent, and it's respectfully requested that the board approve same.
Questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Supervisor Lofton. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Spicer. Any discussion? Hearing none. Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven. Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye and the motion passes. That concludes the request, right?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
There were an abundance of notes in here about a certain amount of frustration with this exercise. You would think that the desire not to give somebody else your money that you don't need to would be enough to get the job done. Is there a role here for the board? Any way we can help?
Ellen might have a suggestion.
Ever since I've been in office, it has been our hope and our aim to get the leasing companies to report things more promptly. One of the problems is the payment doesn't ever come from the same place that the adding and deleting of vehicles comes from, and it takes them a while within their mechanism. It may be a California place that does one thing, and Indiana somewhere else, and Texas does something else in the company, and to try to get them to efficiently do it. Likewise, we have supplements, which you all don't see because the same regulation isn't required that I come to you for approval of getting money in. It's only when we're giving the money back. So although this looks like a reduction in revenue, we actually also have supplements that come in the same way, where we add new vehicles, as they're being leased to people. So I don't know that there's a role for the board to answer your question of educating them. We've certainly worked with these people. A good example is Toyota. They haven't had the same person doing it for like the last 4 or 5 years. It's been somebody different. And it's kind of a training within their own system that's at fault.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll move on. Next is the Code and Ordinance Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Code and Ordinance Committee met on August 29th, and we discussed 2 issues that we request the board to forward on for public hearing. The first was a request from the voter registrar to amend Chapter 7 of the county code regarding elections to remove language requiring the town of Stevens City and the town of Middletown to move their elections, to have their ballots counted at the central absentee precinct. They did this, this request was made pursuant to the 2 towns changing their dates of election. The registrar requested it. It was unanimously supported to put forward to the board to place forward for public hearing.
Questions? All right, we have a motion.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to send this item to public hearing. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Ewing. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I do have a question. if Registrar Mr. Miller maybe could answer that. Do we have to specify the location for this? In other words, give a street address?
No, sir, no. In the code, it says that if, for the November election, the towns will automatically go to the precinct, the polling place in the precinct they would normally go for November elections, which is Middletown Elementary School for Middletown.
Okay, but on the central absentee voting precinct,
Right.
we designate 107 North Kent Street. I don't look for that to change, but sometimes when you put something in there like that and changes are made, then you can come back and change it again. So do you have to designate the central absentee voting precinct as 107 North Kent Street?
We should designate it as, you know, in a building. We have to do that.
A specific address?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you. All right. We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It will be scheduled for public hearing. Next.
The Code and Ordinance Committee reviewed a proposed amendment to the entirety of Chapter 158 of the Frederick County Code for vehicles and traffic. Article 2, stopping, standing, and parking. The committee reviewed the amendments and revisions to the draft, and upon motion and being passed by the committee, it was forwarded to the Board of Supervisors to recommend the matter be held for public hearing.
Questions? Let's get some questions
Yes, sir.
first. If I am driving along and there's somebody along the side of the street that's wanting money in a hat or a basket, my interpretation of this, that's an illegal activity.
Yes, sir.
When the fire company has a boot drive, is that an illegal activity?
Yes, sir.
What do we do about that?
When we discussed this before, Mr. Chairman, we've exempted them from that requirement
How do you do that?
because they're a function of local government.
That was an action we took?
It was a discussion that we had when we put the pandering and peddling ordinance in effect.
So it's abundantly clear to,
It is.
okay. Any other questions? It's not illegal.
Well, when we say it's not illegal, that's right, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions? Now you have a motion to send to public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Or is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Fisher. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item will be sent to public hearing.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Next is the Public Works Committee.
Mr. Chairman, the Fire Station Construction Subcommittee of Public Works met back on July 17th to discuss the prototype design for fire stations in Frederick County, and specifically the Round Hill area. I think we have a pretty good prototype, like a schematic plan that we feel comfortable with, and everyone agreed that that's where we should be going. But we started to get into some discussion on specifics like sizes of bunk rooms, what all goes into kitchens, lockers, and so forth, and the number of showers. Some of these things are driven by code, some are just architectural standards. The subcommittee recommended to Public Works, and Public Works is recommending to the board that we authorize staff to pursue architectural services to come up with a design for a fire station. And that would be in the form of a motion to the board.
If we get some clarification first, is this just to advertise and get proposals?
It's to advertise request for qualifications and proposals for architectural services.
Does it stop short of awarding the contract to an architect?
It has to go back through the Public Works Committee.
Get an appropriation and award a contract?
That's
Try to
correct.
lay out what the scenario will be.
Yes,
here.
sir. Once we have a contract and we've selected an individual, that final action would be back before this board.
Any other questions? We have a motion. Go ahead, question.
If I understand the recommendation correctly, we adopted a policy of 2 stacking bays with the potential for a third, and we're proposing sending it out to the field for architectural design for 4 bays.
This particular station, we're recommending three bays.
With the ability at some point in the future, if necessary, and that's a big if, the way it's designed to add a fourth bay on the end.
Go ahead, Supervisor Ewing.
Mr. Riley, are these stack bays or?
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions? All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Who was that? Supervisor Lofton. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
We have one no vote. The motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, the second item from Public Works has to deal with the performance contract. It's the first year measurement and verification. If you remember, we did a performance contract with the Siemens Company dealing with energy. And the first year has resulted in the projected savings, plus it did actually better than what was projected. It's a feeling of staff recommended the committee, and the committee is making this recommendation that we terminate the validation and measurement and verification program. The annual cost of that is $6,339. And when we discussed this originally, that was sort of our plan. If everything seemed to fall in line, we didn't see the need to continue to pay this fee each year, since there would be no reason for this to change, and it seems to be working very well. So I would so move that we end the energy performance contract measurement and verification program with Siemens.
Questions on the motion? All right, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Lofton. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion passes.
That completes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Next is Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee met Wednesday, August 15th. Items 1, 5, 6, 8, 11, 12, 13, 15, and 17 were approved under consent agenda, and I so move for approval of consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor DeHaven. Discussion? Hearing none. All those, well, Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and items 1, 5, 6, 8, 11, 12, 13, 15, and 17 are approved under consent.
Mr. Chairman, that sounds like a lot of items, but they were small, small money requests. The Parks and Recreation Director requests an FY13 General Fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $75,000 from reserved proffer funds. This amount represents funds needed to purchase a 20-passenger minibus. The committee recommends approval, and I so move.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor DeHaven. Any discussion? Hearing none. Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I think Supervisor Spicer wants to abstain from this next.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. I wish to abstain from consideration of the third
You
item.
would record.
Commonwealth Attorney requests an FY13 General Fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $27,827 for the addition of an assistant attorney position. Item was reviewed and approved by the County HR Committee on August 10th, 2012. Local funds are required. The committee recommends retaining the existing part-time administrative position and fully funding the addition of an attorney position. The FY13 General Fund supplemental appropriation request increases to $60,146. Committee recommend approval, and I so move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor DeHaven. Discussion? Hearing none. Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion passes.
The Winchester Regional Airport Director requests an FY13 Airport Capital Fund of supplemental appropriation in the amount of $1,480,749, and an FY13 General Fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $24,156. This amount represents funds for capital projects and land acquisition. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Fisher. Discussion. Hearing none. Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing. Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion passes.
The sheriff requests an FY13 general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $91,742. This amount represents 2 grants from DCJS for Internet Crimes Against Children. The committee recommends approval, and I so move.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Lofton. Any discussion? Hearing none. Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing. Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion passes.
Public Works Director requests an FY13 landfill supplemental appropriation in the amount of $1,055,000. This amount represents carry forward of unused FY12 funds for several projects. Public Works Committee has approved this request. The committee recommends approval, and I so move.
A motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Fisher. Any discussion? Hearing none. Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion passes.
The Public Works Director requests an FY13 general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $287,500 in order to relocate to Gainsborough Citizens Convenience Site. The Public Works Committee has approved this request. The committee recommends approval, and I so move.
A motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr.
Chairman.
Who was it? Supervisor Spicer?
Thank you.
All right. Discussion. Hearing none. Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion passes.
The Fire and Rescue Chief requests an FY13 general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $59,363.96. This amount represents reimbursements received from the Commonwealth of Virginia for the February 2010 snowstorm to be distributed to fire departments and towns and to recognize revenue to non-general funds. The committee recommends approval, and I so move.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Lofton. Any discussion? Hearing none. Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion passes.
The Transportation Director requests an FY13 Development Project Fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $480,183. This amount represents a carry forward of unspent FY12 funds for the Residence Drive project. The committee recommends approval, and I so move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor DeHaven. Any discussion? Hearing none. Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing. Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, for information purposes only, the Finance Director has provided information on the Consolidated Vehicle Maintenance Agreement and General Fund Vehicle Repair Budgets. There's no action required on this. I'd like to point out 2 other items under information, information only, that makes the county look good and is a tremendous asset to the county, and we need to honor them for the Finance Department Forum. The Government Finance Officers Association has awarded the county a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the June 30, 2011 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. This is the 26th consecutive year that Frederick County has received this achievement. It's quite an honor for 26 years in a row. The second item I'd like to point out, if I can get to it, the Government Finance Officers Association has awarded the county an award for outstanding achievement in popular annual financial reporting for the June 30th, 2011 Popular Annual Financial Report. This is the 5th consecutive year that Frederick County has received this award. I think the Finance Department is to be honored for these awards that they have received.
Congratulations to the finance team on behalf of the board.
And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Next, Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first action item considered by the committee was Dairy Corner Lane proposal. VDOT had advised that they had been contacted by a citizen, and they had investigated, and they were requesting consideration of write-in only on Dairy Corner Lane. And after discussion, the committee unanimously approved a motion to make Dairy Corner Lane one-way for the first block westbound, and then returning traffic would use Valley Mill Road would use Dow J Circle. And I would so move.
All right, any questions on the motion? Supervisor Lofton.
I don't want to assume Dow J Circle is a public right-of-way, public
is.
street. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Other questions on the motion? Is there a second to the motion?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Fisher. Discussion. Are we fairly confident that nobody's going to object?
Everyone, including the school system, has now responded in a positive way. We didn't have their input the day we met, but we've received it since.
Both businesses?
Yes. As far as I know, everyone.
Okay.
It's a virtual impossibility to try to exit onto Valley Mill at that intersection. The biggest hazard is eastbound folks, continuous right onto Valley Mill. They don't even look.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I had a very brief question. So if I understand this right, you come off, you would turn into Dairy Corner, and that would be a one-way
For the first block.
first block. And so, okay, so then you would force anybody that was going in there to PAX, I assume is probably the main issue here, to then go out through the, in front of all the apartment buildings to exit on Valley Mill next to Dow J School.
Yes. Which is the way folks from PAX go anyway.
That's the way I
They know
go.
how to get back.
I know how to do that too. I just want to make sure it's clear. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion?
Sorry, I didn't see that. Far enough.
Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Second item was a request of a property owner for removing a portion of Gold's Orchard Road from the state system. He now owns all of the property on the end of that road, and he'd like to remove a portion projecting into his property in order to enable him to secure his property. There was a map available. The committee unanimously supported a motion to grant the request and present it to VDOT for the approval process, and I so move.
We have any questions on the motion? Is there a second to the motion?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Fisher. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Might I request that the board receive information when and if approved?
Yes, sir.
Next.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, was a continuing discussion about the request for addressing speed limits and turning movement stacking lanes for Hayfield Road, westbound 50 to east or southbound Hayfield. And to date, all the review agencies have indicated they see no real issues there. The school system had responded with a quote that they would always support additional site distance. VDOT has confirmed that the site distance meets their specifications, and they have also done some additional pruning work that has made slight improvement to the distance there. The committee unanimously adopted a motion that would recommend no additional action on that request, and I would so move.
Are there any questions on the motion? A little awkward, but it might get us there. Usually don't need a motion not to do anything, but let's go.
I agree.
Any questions on the motion? Is there a second to it?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Collins. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
One other, Mr. Chairman, it's under number 5, other. We've had a discussion, a continuing discussion about a request to do some additional signage, safety signage at a couple of intersections that have been problematic. The committee actually adopted a recommendation of adopting a resolution to VDOT requesting that they implement those changes. Supervisor Fisher received communication from VDOT today asking if they could have a little more time. So I would move that we grant their request until the next meeting.
Okay. Act on.
Well, unless it was
You either
advertised.
postpone or you don't make a motion, whichever you prefer.
Supervisor Fisher? Postpone till the next meeting, or you have a preference?
No, not really.
We'll bring it back as soon as we hear back from VDOT that they're ready. Is that good?
All right, no motion made. Anything else?
That's it, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report. Thanks, sir.
Next is a public hearing and amendment to the 2012-2013 fiscal year budget. Mr. Riley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is tab K, which is a public hearing on the amendment to the 2012-2013 fiscal year budget pursuant to 15.2-2507 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended. School Construction Fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $6.1 million for additions to 4 elementary schools. This request is needed for adding additional classrooms at the elementary level for the implementation of full-day kindergarten. School Construction Fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $2.5 million for the design and document preparation for the 4th high school to the point of, but not including, the bidding of the project prior to construction. And finally, School Construction Fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $2 million for the design and document preparation for the replacement of Frederick County Middle School to the point of, but not including the bidding of the project prior to construction. That concludes this particular item, Mr. Chairman. The superintendent of Frederick County Schools, as well as the finance director, are present.
Did the superintendent or the director of finance wish to speak? All right. Any questions of Mr. Riley? All right, then we'll conduct, pardon me?
I do have a question, but I don't know whether it's appropriate now or after the public hearing. I can wait until after the public hearing.
All right. No questions, we'll conduct the public hearing pursuant to Section 15.2-2507 of the Code of Virginia 1950. As amendment, the Board of Supervisors is considering a school construction fund supplemental appropriation amount of $6.1 million for addition to 4 elementary schools. The request is needed for adding additional classrooms at the elementary level for the implementation of full-day kindergarten. School Construction Fund supplemental appropriation amount of $2.5 million for the design and document preparation for the 4th high school to the point of, but not including the bidding, the project prior to construction, and School Construction Fund supplemental appropriation amount of $2 million for design and document preparation for the replacement of the Frederick County Middle School to the point of, but not including the bidding, the project prior to construction. Is there anyone here who would like to speak either for or against these amendments to the 2012-2013 fiscal year budget? If so, would you please come forward, give your name, magisterial district, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Hello, good evening, Chairman Schickel. I'm Jay Martz. I live in the Gainsborough Magisterial District. I'd like to speak in opposition to the proposed school board financing. As you know, we just had a $1.1 million surplus in the school budget, and it was not used for any of the items on tonight's proposal. Instead, we will be using it for other purposes and hiring additional administrative personnel. My concern is the school board made a conscious decision not to pay down any debt, not to provide any merit pay increases to retain our best teachers, and not return anything to the taxpayers. Let me expand on the debt. The Fairfax County Public School Capital Improvement Plan has a tremendous amount of new construction planned. Over the next 5 years, it's going to increase our debt up to $95 million. I believe this amount would be the highest debt load we've ever had. I'm not convinced that our current situation, that we are in a true economic recovery. I would be very hesitant to be taking on additional large amounts of debt. Across the country, we have cities and counties entering into bankruptcy. Look at California and Illinois. And speaking of Illinois, I'm sure you've seen the public school problems in Chicago, where 73 cents of every local tax dollar goes to the schools. That's a tremendous amount. And actually, you don't have to travel far to see counties in financial trouble. Loudoun County may be forced to face a $68 million shortfall in FY14. Frederick County just yesterday raised the minimum retirement age from 50 to 55 in an effort to deal with increasing pension costs. On the subject of future construction, I'm sure many options have been considered, but perhaps the interim use of modular classrooms could be considered, the realignment of school boundaries, and how sure are we on the population increase projections that we have? And I would add, if we must build new schools, let's ensure we include the ability for expansion in design instead of building a school and then have it max out very quickly without any ability to expand the current school. As we develop plans, let's not put ourselves in the same situation we had with the old Gainesboro Elementary School or the school buildings we had in Stevens City. We are still waiting for the opening of the $21 million new transportation center, and I am unsure what the disposition is of the old transportation center. And I would remind you that the county cost per pupil is $10,000. Shenandoah Valley Christian School is $5,700, Winchester Academy is $7,000, Mountain View Academy is $7,200, and Warren County is only $9,000. I understand the need to maintain and keep our infrastructure going, but my main opposition is I believe the surplus could have been used more responsibly, especially in the light of tax increases the county residents were forced to pay. Let's not rush into taking on more debt. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. Did you wish to speak? Come forward, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Raleigh, would like to speak to the recommendation before you. First, I would like to revisit the action of our school board and the proactive actions regarding the current capital improvement plan. As you're aware, the full-day kindergarten initiative has been an area of focus for quite some time. With our previous capital improvements plan last year, we actually had a new elementary school slated to be open within that plan. And looking at projected growth, as well as the need to implement full-day kindergarten to increase the exposure of vocabulary to our students and increase the number of students that are entering first grade and second grade, those critical ages where they need to be reading on grade level. And considering those initiatives, our school board and staff created a plan which provided, instead of during this capital improvement project or specific project time period, they created a plan to expand our existing facilities at the elementary level, taking into consideration current growth and factors that some of the critical factors that were considered were the size of the current school, the proximity and location in the county, and projected enrollment patterns, as well as the ability of those buildings to accommodate the expansion. In doing so, as you're aware, the typical cost to open up and build a new elementary school is $21 million. This project, in terms of the classroom additions at 4 of our elementary schools, Bass Hoover, Evendale, Red Bud Run, and Stonewall, the cost of that project is $6.1 million. Also, as you have before you, the Fourth High School. We have, as you look at our capital improvements plan, our board was slated to come forward with a full appropriation. What you have before you with the high school as well as the replacement middle school are partial appropriations. And the request is to move forward with the design. As we look at current enrollment. Currently, we have 2 of our 3 high schools, as of August the 31st, are above capacity. Right now, with this plan, the projected opening is 2016. With granting approval to move forward with the design, that provides us with an opportunity to continue to monitor our enrollment trends, and at the same time remain on course to open these schools, replacement middle school and high school, on time. By not approving the request for design, potentially this could push back this project, and I believe most board members are aware that in order to complete a high school project of this nature, typically it takes about 3 years. It can be done in a shorter time period, but typically when that occurs, that drives up the cost of that project. Also, I think it's important to consider that I believe we're at a point with our new construction and the consideration of the high school. The question is not if, but rather when. And by our school board providing flexibility with this request for partial appropriation through the design, that provides us with more time to monitor our enrollment. We are seeing current trends that are holding true, but that gives us more time, at the same time allows us flexibility to remain on schedule. As you are aware, there was a feasibility study that was done with the middle school where we looked at whether or not it was cost effective to use the existing site or build new. When you look at current day, modern day standards in terms of what is desired and appropriate to provide a modern day middle school education, looking at the feasibility study, the best option in terms of a cost-effective option for taxpayers was the construction of the new facility. Mr. Chairman, I'm available, as well as staff, to answer any questions you or board members may have regarding our school board's request.
Questions for the superintendent? Supervisor Ewing.
Doctor, I have a couple questions for you. Some of them are clarifications. I think you've answered them, but just to clarify. The classrooms that you're adding to the elementary schools, are they strictly for kindergarten, or are you be using them for one-up?
It's a combination. Most are kindergarten, but once again, with this project, it's twofold in terms of the primary initiative is to achieve full-day kindergarten in 2014. It takes into account existing schools that may have flexibility or need to expand. I will share with you that it's also important to recognize that as we were identifying these 4 schools, we knew that it would require a rezoning process. But the schools were selected based on their size as well as proximity, so that we can minimize the amount of rezoning, but that will be required. So these schools were selected strategically so that we can accommodate growth as well as the desire and need to implement full-day kindergarten, so that it's mainly kindergarten classrooms, but it provides some flexibility for growth as well.
Second question, the additional debt service, is that going to be offset by retired debt, or is that going to be additional debt?
Currently, we are below the funded level for debt service. With this current capital improvement plan, the debt service will exceed current funding level in FY 2014. It will be at its peak in FY 2017.
So it's going to increase the bonded debt?
It will exceed in 2015, yes.
Once you have your design plans, designs of the new schools, how long would they be good for before you actually started construction? In other words, if we approve your design stage, but we don't approve your construction for a couple of years, are they still going to be good?
That depends on the timing. I would like to yield to Mr. Orndorff, who may be better equipped to address that. But certainly, and we're in a situation where with the approval for design, within reason right now, if for some reason our enrollments do not hold true to our projections, by going through with the design, and perhaps if our enrollments are down and we needed to push it back to, say, 2017 or 2018, those designs would be firm. Now, if we go beyond that, I would like to yield to Mr. Orndorff to expand and provide you with specific detail.
To answer your question, Mr. Deering, the biggest challenge would be HVAC systems. So if it's set for a longer period of time, with the net zero in 30, with increased standards, requirements for less energy consumption in the building, the architects and engineers would design it planning ahead. But again, if you're looking at something 2, 3, 4 years out, you would probably have to go back. Floor plan would not change. Civil engineering probably would not change. The biggest area that you may have to go back and revisit would be your environmental systems, HVAC in particular.
What percentage of, ballpark, percentage of the design do you think that would be?
I'm sorry, question again?
What percentage of the design process would represent the areas that you're talking about might need to be revisited?
I would say less than 5%.
Okay, thank you.
In cost.
One more question, Mr. Chairman, or a clarification. The appropriation of the 6.1 is for actual construction, correct?
Correct.
But there's no other money being requested for any construction at this time? It's all design and...
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Fisher.
Dr. Sovine, on the high school and the middle school, have the sites been acquired for those facilities?
They have not. We are still in the process. We've identified some areas of interest, and we have several options that we are currently pursuing.
Would you, if this would be approved tonight to do these designs, would you wait, though, until you had sites secured before you actually did your design?
At this point, in terms of we have several options in terms of the locations, and those locations will allow us to accommodate the middle school and high school. So we have alternative options, but by providing us with approval today, that allows us to move forward and design, so that way we can maintain the possibility of opening in 2016. But we're at a point where we are progressing in terms of the process, in terms of land requirements.
My only concern would be you get into some site or civil work that you would have to redo. So I just would hope that you make sure you've got your site secured before you do the...
Yes, we're very close in those areas, and we'll be mindful of both the design as well as site selection.
So I could assume the design will follow pretty secure site acquisition?
Yes, sir.
Your modeling for these costs, was it like 6, 7, 8% of estimated construction, or what?
Mr. Chairman, I'll have to yield to Mrs. Fry or Mr. Orndorff.
On the high school and the middle school projects, they would go out to bid on A&E, and I would speculate that they would be less than 6% for the A&E cost. Initially, we would do project scoping before we got into any design work, and certainly, as you know, civil engineering is such a major part of a project that size. So before you actually began any engineering or design work, we should have the site secured. There are other costs, topo, boundary surveys, and those type of things that are costed into that figure of how much you would need to get to a point of actually having bid documents ready to go. And that's as far as this funding would take us. Did that answer your question, Mr. Chairman?
More or less asking for a big picture view of your modeling effort. You've got some costs that you estimate that the facility will cost, and you're backing into the architect, civil engineering, and all these costs, and I was just curious how you came up with them.
Again,
A percent or what?
it was a percentage basing, looking at A&E approximately being
Remember what it was?
6%.
Do you remember what it was?
The overall cost of the project?
No, the
Potential.
percentage that you're requesting for bid ready.
I don't remember that exact percent, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Lofton.
if I may, to follow up on Supervisor Ewing's question about the $6.1 million for additions to the 4 elementary schools.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Savine, has the architectural and engineering plans been accomplished for this, or does that money include that?
That is, we have been in cooperation working with OWPR, and that will actually be included in that amount.
When you mentioned enrollment driven, that certainly would apply to the fourth high school. Projections indicate, and I guess I hadn't anticipated an enrollment or a capacity issue in the elementary schools or the replacement of the middle school. I guess I'm wondering if things don't turn out like you thought. I thought it would probably only affect the high school timing and not the other two. Was I wrong in that?
Right now, we have 3 items. I want to make
Try
sure.
it a different way. No matter what happens with enrollment, barring a huge decline, you would go ahead with the elementary school additions and the replacement of the middle school probably, would you not?
If appropriated, those monies, yes, sir.
Nothing's going to change. You didn't build a lot of capacity into them, did you? Or did you?
We were projecting potential growth, and also in our plan in terms of the elementary schools, looking at current schools that are overcrowded, and by identifying these 4 schools, looking at their proximity, the size, and the ability to expand those facilities through rezoning, we would be able to redistribute and accommodate full-day kindergarten and growth.
Okay, I guess I'm fishing for Paul's points, and there appears to me to be one on the fourth high school prior to bid. Did things turn out, did they work out like you thought that they would as far as population's concerned? There seems to be a Paul's point there when we'll need to talk and see if it's on track. You said it's not, it's when.
Right.
The other two, I guess I'm trying to understand if there truly is a Paul's point or not. Insofar as how much additional capacity that you probably will get, think you will get, are you planning into those? If that didn't happen, would you change your mind?
If we could not do the full-day kindergarten classrooms, then we would have to go back and revisit our capital improvement plan to look at growth, because initially we had the elementary school on there. My concern with the high school, as I mentioned, when you look at the current capital improvement plan, the plan calls for full appropriation, and the board as well as I preferred to go with partial. Once again, reducing the amount of money needed at this point, providing us with more flexibility and time to make sure and to validate that our numbers are running true. Now, currently with our high schools, based on the August 31st membership and enrollment, as I mentioned, we have 2 schools, Millbrook High School, which has a capacity of 1,250. They are currently at 1,256. Sharando with a capacity of 1,400 is currently at 1,434. And then looking at projected growth over the next couple of years, we anticipate this will grow. But by going with the partial design, that provides us with flexibility not to go forward with the complete project, but to stay online to verify the enrollment is true, and also to maintain a timeline. If it is indeed pushed back, or if it's a situation where the design is not approved tonight, potentially with continued growth trends, we may be revisiting this. Currently, considering the fact that we have 3 years to complete that project in terms of construction, that keeps the costs down. If, for example, the enrollment trends continue to grow as projected, and it's delayed, and the project has to, if we have to reduce the amount of construction time, that potentially could increase the cost of the project. That is certainly a concern that we have as well as our board. So in terms of providing flexibility and considering our circumstances, rather than going for a full appropriation, we opted to go with the partial to provide that flexibility to your board and reduce the initial cost of the project, and to once again verify and provide a little more time to monitor our numbers. But currently we're seeing our numbers are pretty close to projections. I can't stand here before you tonight and guarantee, towards the end of this year and next year, they will agree, but looking at the current trend, that certainly seems to be the case.
Okay, I'm probably trying to box you in here, so be aware. It seemed to me that prudence would say on the 4th high school, we'd have a pause point before bid to make sure everything had lined up. That seems prudent to me. I guess I wasn't thinking that there needed to be one on the elementary school additions or the replacement of the middle school, but when I heard you make your presentation, I thought perhaps prudence would say there should be prior to bid. So I was trying to clarify and have an understanding about when we'd have pause points and when we wouldn't, that we were both aware of, not just the school board.
Yeah.
We have a pause point on the high school?
Certainly. We have flexibility with this in terms of monitoring our numbers, and with the full-day kindergarten, we have, what we have before you tonight is the construction piece. Certainly, when we get closer to the 2014 year, there will be operational needs there as well.
Okay, and then on the other two, the elementary schools and the replacement middle school, does prudence say we would need a pause point?
I think looking at the research that we've done, and if we pause with the middle school, we're at a point where we're already expending monies and so forth. That cost will continue to grow and become a challenge. So
That's a no.
Correct.
Okay, and the elementary school's the same way if you want full-day kindergarten?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So it would be fair for us to leave here, if approved, with expectation of a recheck and a pause point on the high school, but probably not on the other two.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Orndorff, am I confusing?
Hey, Dr. Sadai. I think the mechanics of your question, Chairman Schickel.
He looked anxious, so I thought I should let him talk.
With the elementary school approval, we would go ahead and start that project. We've done the preliminary scoping with the expectation, if all the stars align, of going to full-day kindergarten in the fall of 2014. So there's not a pause point with the elementary. What the school board has asked the Board of Supervisors to do with the middle school is approve the design of the project up to the bid documents. There would be a pause point before that project actually went out to bid. We would have to come, the school board would have to request again of the Board of Supervisors to go to, put those bid documents on street to actually build the middle school.
We could just agree tonight that prudence would say we should have a pause point on the middle school.
And
I'm not trying to I'm just trying to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I believe I understand where you are. Yes, and I believe when we, not the point that I was, I believe, trying to make was by going through with the design that provides us with that flexibility and provides you as a board with that pause point to monitor.
The only reason you'd pause on the elementary schools if you decided you didn't want to have all-day kindergarten.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, that's all I was trying to get to.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Anybody else?
No, but may I ask Dr. Savine or Mr. Ornoff a question? It's my understanding that the middle school is not necessarily needed for overcrowding that may be part of it, but the fact that the school we have is outdated and it's taken a lot of money just to keep it in repair and keep it usable?
Yes, and I'd like to expand on that. When we consider it for modern-day middle school structure in terms of what's most conducive to provide and meet the standards of a modern-day instructional environment, the answer is yes. That's not to say that facility is not useful from other perspectives. There are alternative options and so forth, but with a current day middle school, in order to bring that up to current instructional standards, it would be cost prohibitive and exceed, in many cases, what it would take to build a new facility and have that current structure. But there's possibilities beyond and outside of an existing middle school with that structure, but to update it is with modern day instructional standards of a middle school is problematic.
So it's more than just a function of overcrowding?
Yes, with the middle schools, yes, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to also remind Board of Supervisors that Frederick County Middle School does have 8 modular classrooms that support that building. So the building and the modular classrooms are supporting the population, and it's around 720 there now. So we're fully utilizing the building plus the 8 modular classrooms, and they are not our newer modular classrooms.
What was the design capacity on the structure without the modulars? If you got 720 with the modulars, must be a lower number.
We would have to go back and look at that, Mr. Chairman. That's is a good question. With the requirement of a computer labs today that we did not have when that school was built.
Spicer.
Doctor, it's been mentioned, and I suspect I know the answer, but it probably would be beneficial to state it on the record. A comment was made during the public hearing that that perhaps some of these initiatives could be obviated by rezoning. I take it that, in fact, no amount of rezoning could do away with the need for any of these 3 projects.
With the full-day kindergarten component, we would not be able to implement full-day kindergarten even with a massive rezoning. There are schools that just could not support that with their existing space.
Thank you.
Other questions? Supervisor Collins.
Dr. Savine, I just want to make clear for the record, the replacement middle school that we're talking about, you're not abandoning Frederick County Middle School. It will just simply be, you're going to reutilize that for other students, non-traditional possibly, and alike?
That is one potential option that we're considering. Currently, Our alternative site is located at Dow J. Howard, which is our Career and Technical Education Center. There are opportunities to expand our Career and Technical Education Center, and there are demands in terms of additional options. But that's one point of consideration that we would have into place along with some other options. But I think it's safe to say that the current structure is not appropriate long-term, looking at growth and needs for a traditional middle school.
And one follow-up question. Mr. Ewing asked you a question about and then Chairman asked you a question about the fourth high school bid. So you can design and bid and hang on to it for the pause point, as the chairman brought up, and then you said there was only a few percentage points, maybe additional costs that would have to be redone for the HVAC system. Did I understand that correctly, Mr. Orndorff or Dr. Savine?
I'll let Mr. Orndorff expand, because he certainly has expertise when it comes to new construction. But yes, the whole intent of a school board coming with the partial going just through the design was to provide that flexibility and to provide that pause point to verify that enrollment and so forth were in line with what we were projecting.
You wouldn't bid it till you're ready to build it.
Right, that's what I understood.
Short of that.
Okay, but I guess the question Mr. Ewing asked and then Mr. Orndorff answered was, you can design it and then hang on to it, but then if we had to wait 5 years, there's certain aspects of that design we'd have to revisit, and HVAC was the one item that you brought up, but that's...
Environmental systems would be the big issue. Depends on how long your finger's on that pause button, but I cannot imagine, unless you really want an extended period of time, that you would normally, once the project goes out to bid, go through the value engineering process and a constructability review. So some of that may be captured in the value engineering. So I don't believe you'd go back and spend an extreme amount, but there is a possibility that you would have some re-engineering costs. But it could be captured in the value engineering phase.
Buzz Ewing.
Have I used up my time? No. Just primarily a comment. I just want to say I support your concepts of adding on to buildings, such as your elementary schools, and not building new buildings. I think it's a very much a cost savings to the taxpayer. What was the other thing I had? Senior moment. No, I do have a problem, though, with increasing the level of the bonded debt service. That is a hang-up on me. I would like to see a retired amount to offset the additional amount, but
Yes.
for this amount, I think I can support.
Well, it kind of goes to the issue of the tradition in Frederick County of building school buildings with debt. It's been our tradition. We have not tried to do it any other way.
Yeah.
Correct, Mr. Rowley?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And I guess, unlike some of the more populated counties, the mechanism that they use has been sufficient to stretch that over time and get the job done, but there are counties that needed too much money to go that route, and they were into bonded issues and other things. But if you did bunch this all up at one time, there wouldn't probably be enough capacity in that vehicle for you to get what you needed, correct?
Correct. And by making adjustments in terms of, as I mentioned, just going through the design, also, Mr. Ewing, thank you for recognizing the work of staff and our school board in terms of thinking creatively instead of just moving forward with the opening of a new elementary school. Thinking creatively, as I mentioned, to open up additional classrooms to accommodate the need for full-day kindergarten as well as continued growth. I would like to add that When you look at the full-day kindergarten concept, I think it's important to recognize that from my viewpoint, and I believe our school board's viewpoint, this is an investment on our young children and in our community. When you look at the opportunity to go from half-day to full day, considering the fact that there are 130 out of 134 school divisions in the Commonwealth that have full-day kindergarten, that by moving to that option, that doubles the opportunities in terms of exposure to rich vocabulary for our young kindergarten children, increasing the number of students kindergarten through third grade that are reading on grade level. It also helps our teachers that are working very hard early on to get our students reading to grade level. As we have greater success and we reduce the number of students that are not reading at grade level, it greatly impacts and reduces the on-time graduation rate. In Frederick County, we have an exceptional graduation rate. 90% of our students graduate on time. However, as you all well know, those students that do not graduate on time tend to cost our system on the back end. So I would much rather catch those students early on, and so that they can be on grade level and graduate on time and be engaged, productive citizens.
Other questions of the superintendent? Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What is your pleasure, board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move for approval.
I have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Supervisor Fisher. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to say I'm going to vote yes at this point, but I might have a different attitude when it comes to the construction appropriations.
Mr. Chairman, I had one brief comment, and just make it for the record. I know that we're not at the design phase yet on the high school, but I share Mr. Ewing's issue with the amount of debt load. I also applaud that we're actually adding on to the schools rather than building new schools. And if we're, well, in this new construction, I think that I am not in favor of building schools where we cannot add on to them as we have done in the past, and that if we do anything, we need to look at making sure that we have room to expand so we're not having this debate every few years.
Other discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll vote. Supervisor Spicer.
Aye.
Supervisor Collins.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor DeHaven.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, and the 2012-2013 fiscal year budget is amended by $10.6 million, 6.1, 2.5, and 2.0. Next item.